Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of How I Got In. I'm your host Karina. Every week we seek to answer the most commonly asked question by college-bound students. How do I get in? It's a daunting task and everyone wonders what it is. So this week we're talking about Duke University in the beautiful Durham, North Carolina. And today we're talking to Mary Hagan. Hi Mary.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great. Now Mary, can you tell us a little bit about what year you're in, what your major and minor are?
Sure. I'm going to be a rising junior. I'm majoring in psychology and I'm considering a minor in art history and a certificate in markets and management.
Now what exactly is a certificate?
A certificate is slightly more intensive than a minor, but it is not a major. It's 7 credits, whereas a minor is only 5. Most majors are 10 to 11. But because Duke is a liberal arts school, we don't really have a business major or anything along the lines of that. So markets and management is really the closest we get to business, which is something I may potentially be interested in.
Interesting. That's an interesting perspective on that. Now, are you in Duke right now?
No, I'm actually in Charlotte, North Carolina, doing a program called Duke Engage. It is a service program through Duke that has locations all over the world. I have friends in Jordan right now and in multiple places in South America. I chose to stay domestic just because I'm going abroad in the in the fall. But yeah, so far I really like it. Charlotte is beautiful, and my placement is at Freedom Schools. So I'm an intern there working with level 1 students, which is kindergarten, first, and second grade. And the goal of Freedom Schools is that it's a summer program for at-risk low-income students, and pretty much it's just trying to prevent summer reading loss. The main focus is on literacy, but in the afternoon we do some science and math activities occasionally, but most of the time the activities in the afternoon are more summer camp-like.
That's really interesting. Now, is Duke Engage required by all Duke students, or is that just something voluntary?
No, it is voluntary. Although a lot of Duke students do participate. I don't know. I used to know the exact number. I think it's 2,400 students have participate per year or something like that. Potentially, that may be very wrong. But yeah, it's becoming more and more popular.
It's a great experience, I'm sure. Now, we'll talk more about, the college side of things towards the end of our interview, but let's talk about more the high school perspective and what, helped provide that foundation for you to become a Duke student. Now, going into high school, in fact, we both went to the same high school. It's a very competitive high school. Did you start taking AP classes your freshman year?
Yes. I started freshman year off with 2 AP classes, which I think was a good number as a freshman. I was coming from a small private school that had been academically challenging, so the AP classes weren't too difficult. They definitely required studying and lots of homework, but for the most part, they were pretty okay freshman year.
Did you find yourself struggling with the exams at the end of the year, or did you just accumulate well?
Yeah, so there was definitely a lot of cramming. I didn't quite really get the studying from weeks and weeks before. I'm more of a crammer still, so that's not very good. But I think it was fine. I was definitely way more nervous around exam time, just because to me it felt like I had sat in that class all year and I might as well pass the AP exam. So.
No, it's true. Moving on to your sophomore year, you have a few AP classes under your belt. Did you find yourself being more comfortable your sophomore year of high school?
Yes, I did. I definitely knew the AP program a little bit better. Sophomore year, though, the AP classes, just the content themselves were just a little bit more difficult. But I also took a couple of ACE classes sophomore year as well, which is a program that our high school has through the University of Cambridge, I don't know, something from England. But it is comparable to the AP program.
Did you have a preference over AP or ACE?
ACE were generally a little bit easier. The science ACE classes were pretty difficult, and the exams were very hard to pass, regardless of how well you did in the class. But for the most part, I preferred AP classes just because those credits are more widely accepted throughout the U.S.
No, I agree. For me, I had taken so many of them both. I think a lot of them actually kind of conflicted credit-wise when it came to college. But I feel like it's kind of a good way of, rounding yourself out more. The ACE, as like you remember, is those exams are primarily written out, and you had more opportunity to explain yourself during those exams, whereas the AP, you had multiple choice, and then you had the pre-response questions at the end. So it's definitely, I guess, more taskful with that.
Yes.
Now going into your junior year, that is, everyone says it's the most important year in high school. What were you looking at, like course-wise? How challenging was it for you?
Junior year, I believe I took AP Chemistry and AP Calc, AB, and those classes were both pretty tough for me. Junior year was definitely my hardest year, I think, just because I was still trying to sort of round out my resume and make sure that my grades stayed where they needed to be, just because it is the last full year before you do start your college applications.
Oh yeah, that's definitely, I remember for me junior year, I was just like, I've got this now, and then next year how I'm going to handle all my classes and my college applications. I was a hot mess, really. Now also your junior year, most students start taking preparing for at least the SAT and the ACT. Did you start preparing, or do you actually start taking them your junior year?
I took a prep course for the PSAT before junior year, and that was helpful for the SAT as well. I then took an ACT prep course right before senior year, just because my ACT score was a bit higher than my SAT score, and that was what I used to apply. The ACT was also nice in that they had the 4 breakdowns versus just reading and math. So because really my science score was killing me on the ACT, I could not break, I don't even remember what it was, but there was just a significant difference between that and my reading and math and writing. So
yeah, I was in the same boat. The whole science thing, I was like,
yeah, science killed me, but the other scores were high enough, whereas it just made sense to use my ACT.
Oh yeah. Do you think that taking that prep course for the PSAT helped gain an advantage for that?
My goal in taking the prep course for the PSAT was to try and get a high enough score on the PSAT to be recognized, but I was right below the cutoff. So.
Hey, it's close enough, right? You got to brag about something. Now, actually, let's go back more to your freshman year again. A lot of students think that, oh, it's freshman year, I don't really need to get involved in anything, they're not going to look at my freshman year, but really it does matter on how long you're doing it, like in a club or an extracurricular activity. Did you start getting involved your freshman year?
Freshman year, I was kind of all over the map. I played soccer, I took drama, I was in Key Club and Interact Club, another service club that our school had, and I didn't really kind of solidify my extracurriculars until sophomore year when I became involved in the newspaper.
All right, what made you join that?
Actually, it was a recommendation from our principal, and I was pretty excited about joining it. I'm really interested in layout and design, and that was kind of my motivation. Also, after joining the class, I absolutely fell in love with the teacher and advisor for our paper. And she was really great. And then I became copy editor on like the second day and just really got involved in the newspaper. And before I had been on the newspaper, it hadn't really been printed and distributed regularly. So it was nice just to really focus on that sophomore, junior, and senior year. I attended a lot of journalism workshops. We started printing monthly. We kind of got a website up and running that had been previously started but had not been regularly updated at all. And we just our goal was just to get more students reading the newspaper.
Oh, that's a great goal. The fact that you were a copy editor your second day on the team there, that's kind of crazy. So did you end up moving up in rank throughout by the time your senior year came along?
Yeah, so I was editor-in-chief my junior and senior year.
Wow, that's impressive in its own. Now, was the newspaper your primary concern throughout the rest of high school, or did you have any other clubs you were into?
I really focused on newspaper. Like I said, I did a lot of journalism workshops out of state as well as in state, as well as in the surrounding area around our high school. I stayed involved in Key Club, but for the most part, newspaper was really my thing. I stopped playing soccer after freshman year. I did not remain involved in the drama community. Um, but yeah, so I was pretty angular in that respect, I guess.
Did you ever do anything over the summer that you think would have given you a bit of an edge on that college application?
Well, I attended a journalism workshop at Columbia, Columbia University in New York, which has one of the top journalism schools, or J schools as they call them. And I also attended a very well-respected one at University of Florida. And so I think that kind of helped a bit. But also the summer before my senior year, I interned with a branch of the Sun Sentinel, which is our newspaper in Palm Beach County. And I think that is kind of what made me stand out, as well as being editor-in-chief 2 years in a row. Journalism internships are pretty difficult to get. Journalism jobs are difficult enough to get. So I honestly think I got into Duke because of my journalism extracurricular activities.
No, I mean, that's impressive in itself. How important do you think it is for a student to gain a leadership position or kind of more of an edge in their extracurricular activities for them to really stand out on a college application?
I think that leadership positions in general are very important because most of the individuals reading applications are really looking for students to come into that university or college's community and make a difference in that school. And so I don't necessarily think it needs to be like traditional extracurriculars necessarily, but I think that students need to be passionate about something and have their resume reflect that passion.
No, I completely agree with you. Now, let's kind of shift more into senior year. You've got all these college applications to fill. How many colleges did you apply to?
I also just remembered I ran track, which I can't believe I forgot that. I love track. Anyway, I was also captain of the track team. Again, I can't believe I forgot that. So I applied, I applied early decision to Columbia, and I completely fell in love with it while I was there over the summer for that workshop. I also currently love New York City still. So I applied ED to Columbia and was very excited and hopeful about that. And at the same time, I applied to 2 state schools, University of Florida and Florida State University. And I was accepted into both of those and rejected from Columbia. And that was kind of hard, but right before the application had gone in, I attended a Duke admissions event that was just in Boca, where admissions officers come out to just different areas and kind of try and sell the school. And my mom went to Duke, so I kind of grew up with this idea that I was going to go to Duke, and then randomly fell in love with Columbia and decided that was what I wanted to do. I think I was trying to be a bit different than my mother. But right before I submitted that application, I was kind of starting to question, not necessarily regret my decision, but question it. And then I did not get accepted in Columbia, and I think that was just meant to be. Because I also applied to Vanderbilt, Boston College, Vassar, Emory. I think that was it. And I did not get into any of those schools. So I literally only got into Duke, University of Florida, and Florida State. And I just remember that week that all the decisions were coming out. It was so nerve-wracking. My Vanderbilt letter got lost in the mail, and then I didn't get in. And the Duke decision was the last one that came out.
Oh,
so,
I remember senior year, we were in the same English class, and
yes.
every time, like, did you get the Duke letter yet? Did you get the Duke letter yet?
Yeah.
And then when you finally got it, I made you a confetti cake.
I have a very fond memories of that cake, actually.
You have to find a reason for confetti cake, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's delicious.
Now, I mean, you're managing these AP classes throughout your senior year, and then you've got your college applications due, and you don't want to mess that up. I mean, if you put the wrong name in the wrong essay, like that's immediate rejection.
Yes.
How'd you handle all your applications and your classes at the same time?
Well, part of the issue that I was having was time management. As I said, I like to cram, and with cramming, I feel like that really stems from procrastination, which is a habit that I am currently trying to kick. But also, senior year, my classes were also pretty tough for me. I was in AP Calc BC, which was very difficult. I'm not a math or science person. And so I mentioned very briefly that I ran track. And so I actually had to stop running track senior year just to halfway through the season I had to stop, which is after actually my college applications had been submitted. But I was just at the point where I was so burnt out, and my classes were really picking up as AP exams were about to begin, and I was worried about just kind of messing up my second semester senior grades, which generally people tend to do just because they're literally almost done. But I was worried that my application would maybe be rescinded. I'm a bit of a worrier. But yeah, so I had a bit of trouble just staying on top of everything senior year, and I wish I had figured that out by now, but I still struggle a bit with time management.
I think everyone kind of faced that, especially your senior year. A lot of students think, oh, second semester senior year, they're not going to look at my grades, but in reality, a lot of students do get their applications and their decisions rescinded from the college that they got into, and while
it's just a scary possibility.
Yeah, I know. I was the same way. I was like, what if I get a C and they're like, no, you can't come here anymore? I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
So it is still important to maintain the dedication to studying throughout your senior year.
Mm-hmm.
It is tempting. 'Cause, I mean, you're in April or March and you're about to graduate and you're like, I don't need to study. I'm about to graduate. There's nothing for me to worry about, and that's hard to go through.
Yes.
Now, as we kind of wrap up our interview here, a lot of people visit Duke, and hopefully some of our students will go and visit Duke. If there could be one spot, whether it's a restaurant or a place on campus, what would that one place be that you think people should go to?
Well, you definitely have to see the chapel, which is on West Campus. Honestly, I would recommend doing a campus tour. Right now, there's a little bit of construction going on, so there aren't as many restaurants open. But there are great restaurants in Durham. It's one of the foodiest cities in America. And there is a great donut/breakfast place called Monuts. And they pretty much just have a weird variety of donuts. Some donuts have bacon on top, just random variations like that. So, but it's delicious. They also have great breakfast sandwiches. So I would definitely recommend that if you have time to stop before you go on a campus tour.
I definitely think every college town should have their own donut stop because they're really great at 12 o'clock in the morning when you're studying.
Yeah,
I know for there's so they have midnight delivery services where they deliver fresh baked cookies and donuts, and it's perfect.
Yes, I actually ordered cookies when I was at UF for that journalism workshop. Very good.
That's the way to go. Now, looking back on throughout high school, obviously you mentioned throughout the procrastination effect, and it adds extra stress to you. But would there be one thing that you'd want to change in the college application process, or how you approach different things?
Well, college application process specifically, I wish I'd started a little bit earlier. I wrongly assumed that I was going to get into Columbia, which sounds terrible, but I didn't really have many of my other applications done. I had my Duke application done, but that was really it. And so I kind of wonder if I had more applications finished earlier and I had began them earlier, if those application decisions would have been slightly different. But honestly, I think that me attending Duke was meant to be, as cliche as that sounds. And yeah, so I think honestly everything works out. But just looking back at high school as a whole, I wish I had stayed more on top of my work. Like, one of my biggest regrets is not finishing that track season. So, which is why I cannot believe that I forgot to say that I ran track.
No, but like I agree with you. You know, you get all this pressure and you're like, oh, what if I don't get in? But then like these college applications, it's unfortunately a paper or electronic representation of who you are, and a lot of universities don't interview you. So it's really, you have to spend enough time to fairly represent yourself to these admissions officers. They give you maybe 3 minutes, if that, to look over your application, and it's just, you have to sell yourself. And it's overwhelming, it's challenging, but in the end, it's worth it.
Yes, I would absolutely agree. And if you do have the chance, though, I would also recommend trying to get that alumni interview, or just an interview in general, because a lot of the time, if you're better in person, that can be incredibly helpful as well.
No, I agree. Listen, Mary, thank you for your time. It was great to talk to you about and to learn more about Duke and how you kind of got to Duke.
Thank you for having me.
We hope to have you all tune in for our next episode.